My name is Patrick Bell. I'm the Congresswoman's District Director. Before we get started, I'd just like to go over a few housekeeping items. Today's meeting will run for 1 hour. We'll wrap up promptly at 1:30. After the Congresswoman makes some brief introductory remarks, we'll get right into your questions. Looks like we've got a full house today. If time allows, Cathy may offer some brief concluding remarks at the end as well. Should have in your hand here a comment card. If you don't get a chance to ask a question, I know there's more people and we'll have time for questions. Please feel free to submit your question in writing. We'll get a response. There's staff members here. When we get to the Q&A session, we'd ask you to please come to the aisle. We'll have a staff member with a microphone. They will hold the mic for you. And also on here, I think it says something about taking a ticket. You don't need to take a ticket, but when we get to the questions, please either form a line or raise your hand and then make your way to the aisle. Again, the staff will hold on to the microphones for you. To ensure a productive discussion and conversation, which this is intended to be, please be respectful of all speakers and your fellow participants. All audience members are expected to be civil. Chanting, name-calling, yelling, or other outbursts will result in you promptly being asked to leave. There will only be one warning. All comments and questions are encouraged. If you have an opportunity to ask your question, if you do not have an opportunity, remember that's what this is for. We can still get your question answered, your comment received. So without further ado, please help me join in welcoming our Congresswoman, Cathy McMorris Rodgers.
This is a full house here on Monday, 12:30. That's good. For me, it's great to be home this week. Congress is not in session, leading up to the Easter holiday and break. So it's a great time for me to be able to get around the district and hold some of these town halls. Appreciate y'all coming. I'm going to keep my opening remarks shorter so I can get to as many questions as possible. It's an honor to represent you in Congress. And as the new chair of the Energy and Commerce Committee in this new role, I can tell you we definitely hit the ground running here. We're about 3 months into it. You may have seen we had the CEO of TikTok before the committee not too long ago. It was a rare moment when Republicans and Democrats really came together. So many were commenting that it was a committee hearing that you don't typically have, and I think it just elevated the importance of having the CEO of TikTok in front of the congressional hearing. TikTok had been delaying this for several years, and to be able to ask him questions, and clearly his answers only underscored the concerns around the national security threat that TikTok is absolutely ultimately tied back to the Chinese Communist Party through ByteDance. And the national security threat, I believe, is immediate, and we need to, that's why I've called for banning TikTok. But we also need it only underscores the importance of a privacy and data security that would protect us from all of big tech and the collection of our personal data, sensitive information. And that was basically that was an area where we do have strong bipartisan support. I've worked on this legislation for several years now, and I'm hoping that we can get that across the finish line. You may have also seen last week the House passed H.R. 1, which is the signature package for the Republicans around energy. And truly it was about unleashing American energy and all the above approach to energy, the importance of domestic energy production, which is just important to everything. It's important to our national security, it's important to our economy, our standard of living. And so this package, we were very targeted in our approach where we don't want to lower environmental standards. We cherish the high environmental standards that we have in this country, clean air, clean water, our soil. But to address some of the permitting delays and the regulatory climate that make it difficult to permit any kind of a energy project, but also other projects. And so we're addressing some of the permitting challenges, the duplication, putting in some timelines so that projects would have more certainty, having one agency that would be the point on a project so that we can get these projects built quicker. Right now it's it's anywhere from 7 to 10 years on average to get a project that has federal dollars built. And time is money, but it also means it's just slowing us down, whether it's building a road, an energy project, a manufacturing plant. I was just visiting Honeywell this morning, and it's great to see. So they are processing copper, they're refining the copper right here in Spokane Valley. And you know, they actually do 60% of the refining of copper, and it's pretty amazing what they're doing there. But they're maxed out. You know, they're running 24/7. They need more people. They need more employees. So that was one. But they want to expand, and that's what we want to see happen. We want to see more jobs, more opportunities for people right here in Spokane Valley and beyond. So it's great you all are here. This is good. And
you too.
Well, thank you. And so I think I'm gonna wrap it up there and start getting to questions so we can maximize our time together. Okay, you get first because I saw your hand first. Please, that would be great if you stand up and introduce yourself.
Probably a lot easier than.
Yeah, we're gonna try to get mics to you just so everybody can hear.
Easier than me trying to get out of there. Oh, okay. Yeah, you said that. First of all, Cathy, welcome home, and thank you for serving us in the district here, and for taking all the arrows for us for supporting our conservative values and policies. Appreciate that very much. The question is, well, comment first. I do commend you on your recent grilling of the TikTok CD. I've never seen you quite so aggressive. That was interesting. But recently, the Spokesman Review reported that you and other House Republicans, and I think they're both Idaho senators, I believe, were joining in on that, if I got that information right, but introduced a bill that would halt the rollout of the Oracle Cerner system regarding problems with the VA health computer system. Can you tell us where that bill is, what's going to happen with that, the timing, et cetera, and what about the current, if I have this right, the Avista system?
Yes.
Can you touch on that as well and
Sure.
let us know what's going on in that area?
Sure.
Veterans need your help, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Right, for sure. Well, to all our veterans, to those who serve, thank you. Thank you for your service. Yeah, thank you for your example to all of us, defending these freedoms. For the reason that we provide hope to the rest of the world in so many ways. So the VISTA system is the current system at the VA. The health record that you have is currently is called VISTA. And Cerner got the contract. It was a $15 billion contract from the federal government to create a new health record for our veterans. And I think everyone shares the goal, the vision, where as a veteran, your record would follow you from your time in active duty, DOD, under the Department of Defense, then when you come to the VA, because we have way too many examples where veterans, their records get lost or they can't locate, and so it's a great goal. The Cerner system has created a lot of issues, though. You know, it was rolled out. So it was rolled out it was October of 2020.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of COVID, and So anyway, and Spokane's the first. So we're the first VA medical center in the country to have this new health record. And then Walla Walla, which I also represent, was the second. But clearly, it wasn't ready. It's not ready for prime time, and there's been way too many issues with this system. Doctors who have lost complete confidence in it, trying to take handwritten notes to track veterans that are getting their prescription drugs messed up, getting duplicate or not getting them. So anyway, there's a lot of issues. And so I've been in very close contact with the VA from the beginning. Secretary McDonough came out right after he became the new secretary. So he's secretary under President Biden. He came out early on, did the tour he brought, and then his deputy Dr. Remy came out, brought Cerner with him, And that was in 2021. Needless to say, we still do not have this system ready. And despite all the money, all the training, so I have called, there's just too many concerns. I've heard from hundreds of veterans in the congressional office. There's too many concerns, so I have joined, yes, in the House and the Senate to, the VA is already, so I had asked for them to halt the rollout, which they did. And now I'm, asking for this to be halted through legislative action until we get answers right now. So now we have a new company, Oracle, that's going to come in and do their review of this system to see if they think they can salvage it, what it would take, make some recommendations to Congress. But bottom line, if you're a veteran and you're having problems, contact the congressional office. You know, we're here to help. We help veterans all the time get appointments or try to get answers, and we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to help you. So thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Biden announced in the last presidential debate that he was going to cut oil. And that raised the price of oil from $41 a barrel to $112 or whatever. That told Putin he was going to have enough money to invade Ukraine. I claim Biden started the war. What can he do to end the war or raise the price of oil?
What can he do to end the war?
Or raise the price of oil so Putin has to pull out.
Oh, I see. So perhaps cut off
to lower the price of oil.
So Putin isn't making so much money off of the oil that he's producing. Okay, thank you. Now that I understand. On American energy independence, I will just say we spent 40 years to become energy independent. We established the Department of Energy with the goal of becoming energy independent. And we did, and it took us 40 years because we were concerned that we were too dependent upon OPEC for oil, bottom line. And there's been a lot done to get us to the place where we as a nation just in 2020 became energy independent. And I think it's so fundamental that we are able to meet our own energy needs. And it's true, President Biden campaigned, he said he was going to shut down fossil fuels, and beginning on day one, he shut down the Keystone Pipeline. Not that he was opposed to pipelines, because he okayed the Nord Stream 2 pipeline in Europe, so Germany was buying the natural gas that they needed from Russia, to your point, helping fund Putin's military. And there's been other action by the administration. That's part of why we are moving on H.R. 1 to unleash American energy. I've been quite dismayed to see the president go to places like Venezuela or OPEC or Saudi Arabia asking them to produce more oil, right? That's when we have it right here, and we do it cleaner, more efficient, and it's and we produce our energy is lower cost too. It's the American. We are, and we need that. So as far as cutting off supply to Russia, the H.R. 1 that we just passed last week, it started out as Energy Independence from Russia Act, because as we've been shutting down, as the administration has been shutting down the exploration and development here in the United States, we've been importing from Russia. So we cut off the imports from Russia for oil and natural gas it's in the Northeast, but also California imports. So we cut that off. We still, though, the United States of America is still buying uranium from Russia for the enriched uranium for nuclear reactors, we've shut down our mining here, and we don't have the enriched uranium, but we're going to work on that next on the Energy and Commerce Committee. And as far as the war in Ukraine, I think that when Putin sensed that there was pulling back by the United States, he decided to go in. And the war in Ukraine did not cause the energy crisis, it exposed what was really going on. And I am supportive of Ukraine's fight for independence, self-determination. This is, the Ukraine used to be under the USSR, and they became independent in 1989. They had the third largest arsenal of nuclear weapons at that time in the world. They gave up their nuclear weapons and nuclear capacity in exchange for an agreement that the United States, Russia, and Ukraine signed, that if there was ever an aggression in their country, that we would help protect them and defend them. They want self-determination. They want their independence. Now, I do not support just continuing to write blank checks to Ukraine, and I believe that we need to know what success looks like, and that's something that the Republicans in the House are demanding of the administration before there's any more money. And we need to know where the House Armed Services Committee is getting an accounting of how the money has already been spent in Ukraine, because we need to have those answers and make sure that we're actually spending it in a way that's going to help Ukraine be independent and self-sufficient. Okay. Right here now.
Well, my main concern right now has to do with ESG. Okay, watch these Senate hearings, stuff like that, these major brokers house come up and say, oh, we're not doing this, we're not doing this, we're not forcing this. So yeah, at the Spokane airport, came back last week, big investment sign right there on the wall. See what that says right there?
Yeah. Investing.
Okay, that bank in California that just went broke was an ESG bank. Okay, where people were all investing in social justice and all this kind of stuff. And these programs don't have much return. But the fact is, we're being pushed this way, and it's just the first step, I believe, that we're going to be pushed into where it even comes down to affect our own credit score about how we invest and stuff like that. What is the Congress doing to keep that under control and not let that happen to us? I mean, the federal digital dollar, the whole thing is all focused in a direction that's not going to be helpful for us.
Right. Well, there's a lot that you just threw out there. So in capitalism, in a free market, in free enterprise, it includes risk, and it includes that sometimes you fail. But that's been the American way, right? We don't guarantee that you're going to have success or outcomes. It's an opportunity to take a risk. It's an opportunity, it's an opportunity to compete. It's not a guarantee that you're going to have success. And that's, so when I look at the bank situation, I get concerned when the federal government just says, oh yeah, we're just going to take care of everybody, right? And so there's a fate, Sometimes you lose in all that. As far as ESG, I know that the Financial Services Committee is having some hearings on that. Where the where I'm taking the Energy and Commerce, we don't get into so we don't have financial services in this committee, but certainly making the case for an all of the above approach to energy. And ESG it seems like the investors are wanting to go all in on wind, solar, and electric vehicles. Really, it's just promoting this this narrow approach that I think is dangerous. If you're only going to, for a number of reasons. First of all, those supply chains are largely controlled by China. The supply chains for wind, solar, and electric vehicles are controlled by China. They have gone around the world, locked up the critical minerals, the metals, the copper, for example, that you need for microchips, that you need for electric vehicles. A lot of that's controlled by China. And I think it's moving, we need energy. And the United States of of America is blessed with abundant energy resources. So this idea that we're going to shut down American energy, shut down coal, oil, gas, nuclear, hydro, because they want to tear out the dams too. 70% of our electricity is hydro. And somehow, I mean, it's just not reality that we can meet all of our energy needs with wind, solar, and electric vehicles, or that it's going to be better for the environment either. The United States of America is the leader, not just in energy production, but doing it cleaner. We've been leading the world in bringing down carbon emissions. And you look around the world, the nations that are economically doing better are also environmentally friendlier. So we do it better than anywhere else in the world. And so we need to be unleashing the new technology and innovation across the board. Carbon capture, carbon sequestration. We need to lead on advanced nuclear reactors. You know, they're being developed right here in Washington State. The small nuclear, these smaller nuclear reactors that they'll reprocess the waste. I mean, this is American ingenuity again. You know, coming up with instead of the waste, we've been battling for years over Yucca Mountain, whether or not Yucca Mountain was going to be where we could send all our waste. Now they figured out how they can recycle the waste. It's, that's exciting, and that's the next generation nuclear technology, and it would help meet our energy needs here, as well as that's what we should be exporting to our allies and partners around the world, not this dependence upon China. And that's where I'm concerned about the ESG agenda, is that it really is. It cuts that off, right? Yes. Okay.
First of all, thank you for coming, and I take no particular joy in trying to nail you. And I'm going to ask you a very difficult question. 10 years ago, well, more than 10 years ago, a bipartisan bill passed the weapons ban, the ban of weapons of war. And that ban was not reinstated. Since that time, mass shootings have gone up and up and up and up in a much higher degree than they were during that weapons ban. Yep. So I want to know, why wouldn't we ban weapons of war rather than letting our children die in schools where they should be safe? Yep. And I don't want to hear that it's all about mental health, because we will always have unhealthy people. But if they can't get a hold of an AK-47, they can't do as much damage. That is absolutely crazy to think that that's the way to solve it. So why not do bills that are good common sense approaches to making weapons safer in our world?
I don't support the assault weapons ban. And the reason is because when you looked at the facts, it did not have the impact as...
That's not true.
And the way that assault weapon bans get defined, you take weapons away from law-abiding citizens.
No, you just don't let them buy them.
Well, we ultimately, the Second Amendment is about individuals being able to protect themselves and their property.
Right.
And it is
It is well regulated.
Yes, it is. Let her talk. Yeah, let her answer. Let her talk.
We ultimately, we as a citizenry, as people, at the end of the day, I want to be able to protect myself and my property, and that is it's a constitutional right. I have 3 kids in school. I think about this a lot. I dropped my girls off at school today, and absolutely, it's on my heart. These shootings are horrific, and I have worked in Congress on legislation to close the loophole in the background checks, right? The NICS, the national background checks, that list that we had, because In many of these examples, these are individuals that should not have guns to begin with. I have worked to provide more funding to schools so that they can do planning and have resource officers and other people do the mapping of their schools, the safe schools grants, so that the schools can be doing what they need to be doing to keep the children safe. I mean, we all agree, we want our kids to be safe at school so that they can learn. I also believe, when you look at the mental health numbers, we absolutely have a mental health crisis also in this country. And it has escalated during COVID. That it was bad before COVID. The numbers of people that were anxious, depressed, substance abuse, committing suicide, it was bad before COVID. And that has only been compounded, I don't know how many times over. The fentanyl crisis in our country, it is all, or not all, but a lot of that is driven by mental health. And so we must address the mental health. We must support those who need help. And last Congress, I worked bipartisan on a comprehensive mental health package. It was the most comprehensive mental health package ever passed in Congress, and we worked bipartisan to provide support at the local level. I serve on the mayor's task force here in Spokane to make sure that we're doing everything we can to provide the support to those who need it. But we all have a role to play in addressing the mental health within our families, our neighborhoods, our community. We all need to be, we all need each other at different times. And we all need to take responsibility to being a good friend and building relationships so that when somebody's in need, they know that they can go somewhere for help.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Sorry. I appreciate being here and hearing your constituents. I too am a veteran, and I want to thank other veterans for their contributions. So thank you all. I'm also a physician, and I wonder what you think your response has been to the banning by a federal judge in Fort Worth, Texas, of the provision in the Affordable Care Act to provide preventive medication and services, which have been shown in the past unequivocally to improve healthcare access and decrease costs. And if you do not agree with that, what is your proposal other than your proposed transparency, which arguably does neither increase access nor decrease costs? Thank you.
Well, that lawsuit or that challenge of the Affordable Care Act provisions related to preventative care is working its way through the court system. And we're keeping an eye on it, but I do believe in prevention. I think I want to be incentivizing people to take care of their health early on and to make decisions so that they'll be healthy individually. I think it makes sense. I don't agree with what you said about transparency, though. We had a hearing on price transparency within healthcare, which I believe is fundamental to restoring the doctor-patient relationship, to getting some understanding as to what the actual costs are within our healthcare system. We spend a higher percentage of our GDP on healthcare than any other nation in the world. It's nearly 20%. And we need to know what's driving the cost of healthcare in the United States of America. And so the price transparency is, it was started under President Trump, where he wrote rules to require within the federal government, any health plan would have to disclose the actual prices of what they were reimbursing. And I believe that we should be doing that across healthcare. And it really does have a lot of bipartisan support. It was a bipartisan hearing focusing on the pharmacy benefit managers. So that gets into prescription drugs and what's driving cost of prescription drugs. More and more is, so you have the actual manufacturers, and then you have how much is actually the patient pays, and the pharmacy benefit managers are the middlemen that are doing, making lots of money. And so we are focusing on PBMs. But I also want the hospitals and the health insurance companies to be disclosing what the actual price is. And that's a way to give back more decision-making to the doctor and the patient, and for us to get some control over, some understanding, first of all, as to what the actual costs are. Yes.
Most of us, certainly physicians, would agree entirely with the necessity for transparency. So kudos to you on that. My question, though, is how is that likely to reduce costs and improve access, given that patients don't have any leverage, even if we know the cost of that care?
Well, you begin by getting the transparency so that you can make a more informed decision, rather than being completely beholden to the health insurance company. Or a hospital. You would be able to have an understanding of what, if you need if you need an MRI, or if you need a hip replacement, whatever it is, you would have more understanding as to what the cost is, as well as the quality within a market, and you would be able to make that decision rather than completely relying on the health insurance company or the hospital to make that decision for you. And right down here, yes, the Pullman Hospital CEO testified in front of our committee. He's been, Pullman Hospital has really been a leader on this effort, working with employers in Pullman, and they have many examples where they can show it is allowing the individual and the doctors to do more. It brings in the market so that you can make you're empowering the individual and the doctor to be making more of those decisions, which overall will eventually bring down, it will create competition in the marketplace that will bring down costs. And we asked the CBO director, I had him come in and brief all the members of Energy and Commerce on the spending within our portion of the federal government. And one of my colleagues asked the question, has all the Mr. CBO Director, Congressional Budget Office, can you point to where $1 has been saved due to the consolidation within healthcare? Because now you have hospitals that are buying doctor practices, you have insurance companies that are buying PBMs, that are, lots of consolidation. And he said, no, not one. Not $1 has been saved. So we want to, my goal is to get to the actual cost, what's driving the cost. You got to answer that question first, so then you can figure out what to do about it. Not just shift cost, which often happens within the federal government right now. Thank you. Right here.
First, thank you for coming. Excuse me. I remember when our kids went Girl Scout, you came and spoke downtown somewhere. But now they are both working in Seattle and Bellevue. One of them works with Street Youth Ministries, and so we do pray a lot for that. This is not a question, but this is a suggestion. Tommy and I, my husband, we went to a meeting, and the CEO of this company, I asked a question: how do we solve problems in our country? And he said, well, I just moved in from the East Coast, and my suggestion to you is this: bring people together, both sides, and everybody enjoy the meal, the conversation. And that's what I've been working on. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Yes. Starts with opening up lines of communication. Yes. And on the committee, on the Energy and Commerce Committee, we don't agree on every issue. The energy bill, we got 2 Republicans. Well, we got 4 on the floor, or 4 Democrats. But the TikTok CEO, data privacy, that legislation, that's bipartisan. Price transparency, we're working bipartisan. I absolutely look for those opportunities. It starts by building trust. It starts by building a relationship with other members. I'm hosting lunch for all of us on a regular basis so that we can come together and have a meal, talk to one another. And you know what?
You start doing that and you will find areas where you can find some common ground and you can work on something to solve problems. Absolutely. Okay, should we go to the back for a while?
All right, I don't have so much of a question as I do a comment. I'm
Okay.
Chelsea and I work for Modern Electric Water Company. And we're out of Spokane Valley, so if there's anybody who owns property in our service area, you own our company. We represent you and we try our best to do that. I just wanted to express our gratitude for your efforts in protecting the lower Snake River dams and hydropower, especially with regard to your Northwest Energy Security Act. And I have a couple just quick stats here I wanted to share. Many people don't understand the significance of the lower Snake River dams, and there's 4 of them. And when they're working at full capacity, they generate enough electricity to power 10 cities the size of Seattle. And hydroelectricity is the cleanest energy in the US. It prevents 50 million metric tons of carbon emissions from entering our atmosphere. Nearly 90% of our region's renewable energy comes from hydropower. Our fuel mix, 86% of that is hydropower. If these dams are breached, that means they're intentionally broken to a point that they can't hold enough water to provide the electricity we need. This region will see potentially significant price increases and energy shortages, which will put public safety at risk. The state of Washington says our demand for electricity is going to double by 2050. At the same time, as you said, we're retiring coal and natural gas plants, and we're relying on intermittent energy sources such as solar to fill that gap. Hydropower is more critical than ever, and the lower Snake River dams are critical. They're a critical solution to preventing an energy crisis. In short, California and Texas and many other states, Washington too could see rolling blackouts just like they do if this energy shortage is not addressed. At Modern, our residential rates are as low as 5 cents per kilowatt hour. You can compare that to 27 cents in California, a state we helped bail out during the rolling blackouts in 2022 precisely because we had hydropower energy to give them. As for the salmon, our lower Snake River Dam passage rates for salmon are between 95 and 98%. We've had 3 consecutive years of great salmon returns, and this is another one. We believe protecting salmon is a noble and worthy goal, and residential energy customers pay about 33 cents on every dollar of their bill to help accomplish this. It's time we had a real, open, honest conversation about saving the salmon. That noble goal doesn't begin and end with hydropower. We have a great number of opportunities to help them survive without destroying critical hydropower dams or putting the financial responsibility completely on our local residents, who are forced to foot that whole bill. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts for repeatedly taking a courageous stand to protect our region's critical energy resources, our energy security, and our public safety.
Well, thank you. We're gonna have to have you come testify, I think. Yeah. Tell the story.
I actually do have a request to testify before the Western Regional Caucus on the 18th. So
Great.
if you could back me up, Congressman Lamalfa suggested I put it in.
Okay, great, yeah, let me know, keep me posted. That was well said, well said. The 4 lower Snake River dams are not the problem, and they're not the solution either. Or tearing out the dams is not the solution. It's not the science, it's not based upon facts. This is really, they've just become a target. Yes. And so we need to move the target to where this lady said, where the real problems are, right? You know, let's get focused on what are really going to be solutions. Solutions to saving the salmon. Those dams, as you pointed out so eloquently, the salmon runs on those dams are consistently improving, and they mirror what's going up and down the West Coast. On all the rivers up on the West Coast is really what's going on the ocean. I am working with the Spokane tribe to explore how we get salmon above Grand Coulee. Now that one does not have fish passage, right? You know, right. And and that's a little daunting, right? That's a big old dam. But you know what? There's some really creative ideas as to what we could do today, and there's some pilot programs underway. That's focusing on solutions. Tearing out dams, that is it. BPA, NOAA, Army Corps of Engineers, they just did the last BIOP, the biological opinion. Tearing out the dams is, none of these agencies say, even the president Yes, I know he issued his report from the Council of Environmental Quality within the White House. In that report, he said, we don't know that tearing out the dams will actually improve fish runs. It says it in that report, but we need to do something. That isn't the way you make, that isn't decisions based upon facts or science or actually going to get results. You know, that's, those are political decisions. And that's
Also for flood control.
yeah, flood control, yeah, they were putting, yeah, the whole Columbia Snake River system was really driven by flood control when Portland used to flood on a regular basis and other lives were lost.
Yes.
As well as, yeah, it was flood control and the irrigation,
Yes.
which transformed this region. Hydro was kind of secondary, but now, you know, we're 70% hydro statewide. Thank you. Okay. Good. Let's go in the back.
Hi, first I want to say thank you for coming out here and taking some of these more difficult questions. I know that can't be easy for you. Once again, I'm going to be asking about something relating to being Chinese. So I was born in mainland China, but I am a United States citizen. You met my dad a while back because he brought me to this country. It's great. But I'm a little concerned. So I know that everyone can agree that cybersecurity is important. But can you guarantee me that my rights as an American citizen here in America won't be infringed on by the Restrict Act Section 2, Paragraph 4B? I was born in China, but I'm an American, and I want to make sure that I'm safe.
It's a good question. I have some concerns about the Restrict Act. I have some concerns about how broad it is written. We are going to work, when I say I support banning TikTok, I believe it needs to be a very narrow, targeted bill. And we're working on that right now to have a targeted bill focusing on TikTok that we could bring to the House floor. We did this with Huawei, which is a Chinese company that had, we put a lot of their components into our telecommunications infrastructure. And Congress passed a bill to say, you know what, we're concerned with Huawei equipment and that we're not just requiring that it be torn out. The federal government is spending a lot of money to remove that equipment. So I believe that we can do it. It needs to be targeted, and we need a data privacy, data security bill. We need that to protect Americans across the board from big tech companies, TikTok, big tech, data brokers, that are collecting sensitive information without, or creating profiles on each one of us without us even knowing what they're collecting. And so this legislation would restrict what any company can collect on you to begin with. It gives you a right to know, not just a right to know, a right to say I don't want a profile, or if they're there's a lot of protections in there. The strongest protections for kids that would prohibit the targeting, the tracking of our kids online. The Telecommunications Act of 1996 made pretty clear that they were to moderate illicit material, illegal material, and it's not happening. So we need a privacy bill that will protect all Americans, not one that could be abused. And so the Restrict Act it gives way too much authority, I believe, to the Department of Commerce Secretary.
I'm specifically worried about the Restrict Act.
Yes, thank you. Okay. You want to go right behind?
So referring to that Restrict Act, Senate Bill 686,
Yeah.
is it your position that if it comes to the House, but it's not in the House at this point, you will vote against it then?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I wanted to make it clear.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, because as Spokane GOP chair, I've been telling you, people are attributing that to you. So it needs to be very clear. It's in the Senate. It hasn't come to the House.
Right.
I'll let you talk because you know more about it than I do. But.
Well, no, I appreciate the clarity. It was one proposal introduced. This one was introduced by Senator Warner, who is the chairman of Intelligence in the Senate, along with Senator Thune. There's other proposals also, both in the House and the Senate. We're looking at all of them. My goal is to write a very targeted bill, and I'm working with Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman and the China Select Committee Chairman and others so that we can write a targeted bill. But I would not support that bill the way it's currently written. Should it pass the Senate? I don't think it's going to pass the Senate vote. So.
Given the moral decay of our country, and we're seeing a lot of the violence that our friend Trump was talking about, what do you think are the solutions to handling that moral decay and bringing back conservative values and just free values in our school system?
Oh, good question. Good question. Well, we need to inspire America to believe in America again. We need to inspire Americans. This nation has been unique in all the world. And and fundamentally, it is, we celebrate that we believe in, we celebrate that it's a great experiment in self-governance. Right? The greatest experiment in self-governance that the world has ever known. And it means that each one of us, it starts with each one of us, to be self-governing. It is each one of us doing our part. Like, I was thinking, I need to start a list. When you see the garbage on the ground, you go, you do your part, you pick it up. It's each one of our families that are in need. But what has distinguished America is, and this is another point I'm making, is freedom. Freedom is freedom to do good, not harm. I think freedom is somehow being redefined right now in a way that I don't support, because it's not freedom just to go out and do whatever you want to do, whatever feels good, whatever makes you happy. That isn't the way freedom that's not the American definition of freedom, and I don't know quite how to counter this, but it's freedom to do good, not harm. It's free markets, it's free speech, it is trusting people to make the best decisions for themselves, not a government deciding for you. That's been the American way. And you know what? The United States of America, has done more to lift people out of poverty, raise the standard of living more than any other country in the history of the world. Right. And we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect. The preamble says this: we, the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union. It goes to your point about we're still in this process. We still have problems. We still have issues. We still have needs that need to be addressed. But it's each one of us continuing to do our part to form a more perfect union. And there's a lot that, America is not perfect. I feel like we kind of divided ourselves into these two camps where it's either everything America did was bad, or, I'm a very strong defender of America, and I want to say, well, we did good. You know what? It's people. We are people. And none of us are perfect. But it's each one of us doing our part in our families, in our schools, in our neighborhoods, in our city. We have the mayor of Spokane Valley here, and some of the city council members here. Yeah, Pam, thank you for your service. But it's each one of us doing our part to create that more perfect union. And the federal government is never going to be able to solve it. It's just not. Yes, it is.
What else is done before them for helping us?
Well, it is.
It's not profit motive. Give him a mic if he wants to say something. Give him a mic.
Okay, you're up. You're up. All right. Okay.
Honestly, I can't believe anything you're saying. You're talking about how we are divided into two camps. Let's cover everything. Speaking as a Democrat and a progressive, someone who thinks Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are too conservative, all we want is everyone to have the safety of living their lives. We want everyone to feel safe and to feel like they can express themselves. And all I get from Republicans are censorship and oppression. You talk about freedom, your party is banning books. You talk about...
Hey, he lets you guys talk.
You are totally captured by corporate interests. I'm sorry. I'm just wasting my time. My question, why should we keep voting for anyone who doesn't serve our interests? All right, I'm done.
Your
He's being heard. You don't need to leave. Okay. Well,
the next phrase of that preamble is Assured justice.
Yes.
And that's what he's talking about.
Yes, yes, assured justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare. Yes, but it's a question of how is that best accomplished? Whether it is empowering people and trusting people to make the best decisions for themselves, or whether it's more of the federal government deciding what's best. So, okay, I'm gonna go in the back here. And then I'll come to you.
I almost changed my mind. Talking about bringing people together, this may go over well, it may not, I don't really care.
This
So
is
I
Laura,
am pro
she's
Second Amendment,
atrocious.
But I'm also pro keeping guns out of hands of the wrong people. So everybody can take that however they want, I don't care. But one of the ladies did have a really good point on bringing people together. So this is the next part. One of the biggest killers out there are inattentive drivers and impaired drivers. I was almost killed by one almost 11 years ago. I wouldn't say it's ruined my life, but it's changed my life. It's changed everything about me, and this financially ruined me. So if the people that want to keep the guns out of everybody's hands really want to do a lot of good in society, which I know they do, I know their heart's in the right place, one of the biggest killers out there is the impaired driver, the inattentive driver. Let's do something about that. Why isn't anything being done? There's nothing being done. Nothing. I know there's Mothers Against Drunk Drivers. Nothing is being done about impaired drivers. The lady that hit me got a $75 fine. I got a life sentence.
Oh my goodness, that's so tough. The number one killer right now, well,
is
are
guns.
you speaking of alcohol or drugs? Okay. Because it's on the rise. One of the things, yes.
It's not, they're either being killed, people are being killed, or they're being given a life sentence of brain injuries and body injuries and everything else. The people that live have to live with it.
Yes, for sure. Yes, and there's way too many people that die because of inattentive drivers or people that are under the influence that are behind the wheel. And those numbers are going up right now with increased drugs and those that are behind the wheel, or number of fatalities, accidents that involve someone that is under the influence is on the rise. I am so on a couple of fronts. The number one killer right now of 18 to 45-year-olds is fentanyl in the United States of America. And there's enough fentanyl now in America to kill every single person 7 times over. And so there's a few things going on there. I think we need to, we passed legislation out of my committee just last month that would halt fentanyl. So it would ensure that fentanyl-related substances are illegal, that we would schedule them as illegal substances in the United States of America. And so that, and the concerns on the left, or the Democrats, we got 2 Democrats on it, but their concerns are the mandatory minimums that would be attached to this legislation. So we're trying to work through this, but we have a crisis on our hands. I'm also, every time I can, I include under the influence either through marijuana or other drugs that are driving traffic accidents, traffic fatalities right now. And then the future is autonomous vehicles, driverless cars, which I know a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to let go of the wheel, but it is our future. And I'm working on legislation so that America would lead in the development of driverless cars, that framework, so that companies that are working on it could actually start testing. It's kind of interesting to know China's testing their driverless cars on our roads today, collecting all kinds of data because we don't have a data privacy bill, all kinds of mapping, because it's really a race. They want to lead in driverless cars, AVs, as well as EVs, electric vehicles. GM is selling more EVs to China than in the United States of America right now, because that is where China believes the future is. As you think about the next 100 years, automobile, the United States of America has dominated Ford, GM, Chrysler, thank you. American car makers, right? Although, yeah, so anyway, I won't go into it all. But, you know, the last 100 years, it's been America, and now it's like, who's going to lead in the automobile for the next 100 years? And I want it to be in the United States of America.
2 more questions?
Yes, okay.
Time for 2 more?
2 more questions. Okay, I told this lady right here. Yes, yes.
Hey, really nice to see you again, Kathy. I've been to many of your town hall meetings and in your office in Washington, D.C., if you remember, about 4 years ago. But anyway, I'm really happy that you are answering these very difficult questions. What I would like to say is a couple of things. First of all, I'm a retired psychology instructor from Spokane Falls Community College, and the mental health issue concerning guns is not only affecting our children, but it's also affecting the parents who don't know how to respond to the children's questions. And so this issue needs to be addressed in so many different ways, including, I believe, the limiting, restricting of assault weapons. And so I hope that you take a look at that. Protecting ourselves at home, we don't need an assault weapon as far as I know. We can have other kinds of guns that can protect ourselves. And so I'm really concerned about my grandchildren going to school and being afraid, and also the parents. There was an article in the Spokesman Review recently concerning that big increase in mental health issues with our grade school children and even with our parents. The other thing that I wanted to mention is I live in Cheney, and so we drove a distance over here. And about 10 years ago, I appeared before the Army Corps of Engineers concerning the trains going through Cheney. Now, the trains also go through Spokane, and they also go through the Spokane Valley, right? So I think everyone should be concerned, especially with all these train wrecks everywhere. And in Cheney itself, we just double-tracked from Cheney down to the river, and it may be further than that, to the Columbia. And we have on average 52 trains per day from BNSF and 12 trains per day from Union Pacific, and that's it's outdated information. And some of these, my husband and I have gone down and watched the trains go through, and some of them are bomb trains. They're 1.5 miles long, carrying oil from Canada and coal trains from Wyoming. And so it's a matter of time. I'm hearing all these bombs all over. Just one in Montana 2 days ago, right? And so the other problem that people may not be aware of is the trains go right through the middle of Spokane, and the hospitals are pretty much on one side of the track. And so if those bridges, which I know some of them are decaying and breaking up, if those bridges break, you know, the one that we come through when we come in from Cheney, you know, it's a pretty long track that goes overhead, and some of those bridges are not good. And so I have read that it's a matter of time that we may have that kind of accident that we've been hearing in West Virginia. So I would really appreciate if you would take that seriously, because you talk about the energy. Well, a lot of the energy is coming through Cheney and through Spokane and Spokane Valley. So I just want to bring that attention. The Spokesman Review hasn't talked much about that as far as, you know, the concern of Spokane area and District 5. Thank you.
So yeah, good points. On the train accident, we just held a hearing on the train accident in East Palestine, and we heard from people that were the responders, how the local, state, and federal responded, and we're going to hear from the company also so that we understand what happened and what we can be doing to ensure trains are safe and people have confidence. I would also submit, this is another reason not to tear out the dams, because you can barge product up and down the river, and it's the safest, most efficient, most environmentally friendly way to do it. And so it gets more of that product off of the trains. On mental health, you know, I am very burdened right now, and I know we all are, over what's going on, especially with our kids, and the mental health crisis that we have in the United States of America, and keeping our schools safe, absolutely. And I know I've already addressed assault weapons. I also hear from kids that are afraid to go to the bathroom at school today because of violence in the bathrooms, because of drugs, just the activity in our schools, driven by, one being fentanyl. Spokane, city of Spokane, well, Spokane is now one of 11 crisis cities for fentanyl in the United States of America. We have more terabytes, more photos of kids being exploited, in our region than anywhere in the country. Okay? So what is going on? And as I'd love to hear your thoughts on what we can be doing, because our kids are in crisis. And then the stress, the anxiety, the depression, suicide rates. I asked the head of the American Psychiatry Association just a couple of weeks ago, what is driving addiction in the United States of America? Because the numbers are just off the charts. And you know what he said? That surprised me. He said, hopelessness. Hopelessness.
Parents need to take charge of their kids.
So, yeah, it's kind of hard to write a bill mandating hope. But you know what? Each one of us play a part in that. So we all need to take that to heart about what kind of a message are we given every day. Okay, I'm going to go to the very back for the last question. Oh.
Of course.
Okay, it's good. It's good.
You know what's coming.
It's good.
I warned you last year.
Uh-oh.
Earlier you talked about Ukraine. You talked about supporting their self-determination to rule.
Yes.
Armenia is a Christian, democratic, free country. My grandparents are survivors of the Armenian genocide. Today they're facing more genocidal threats by a dictatorship and oppressive country of Azerbaijan. And if America is not going to do anything to prevent it, like they are in Ukraine, at the very least, we've talked about this before, America can't stop funding it, because America does send military aid. We've talked about Section 907. There's currently a letter on the floor of the House to enforce Section 907. It's been signed by some of your colleagues, but you have not signed it.
Okay.
So I am curious what your thoughts are on supporting, if you talk about self-determination of rule, what are your thoughts on supporting Armenia and preventing genocide?
I will take a look at the letter, thank you. And didn't we pass the resolution last year supporting our?
Well, there's been levels of support, but talk is cheap. We're still sending military aid to Azerbaijan. And just yesterday, more land was taken. I just got back from Armenia.
Okay.
Visited a lot of the villages. Just
Okay.
yesterday, more land was taken. More lives are lost.
Okay. I'm going to have to, I will take a look at the letter, and I will get back to you on that one, okay? Okay. This is representative government, ladies and gentlemen, in action. Thank you all for coming.
This represents her followers, not government.
Yes, this is good. It's great to see everyone. Keep in touch if there's anything we can ever do for you. If you have further questions, I guess you guys have the notes. We'll get back to you as soon as we can.
I have more people live on TikTok than you have in this room. Why not? I said I have more people live on TikTok right now than you have in this room. Why aren't you going after Facebook or Twitter? Why is it TikTok?
I believe we need a privacy data security bill for all big tech.
Why not start with that?
Well, it's both. It's both. Yes. I was working on that the last 3 years. So we passed a bill out of committee last Congress, and we're going to work on it again.
I would like to see that because I don't believe it. So thank you.
Well, I can get you the bill. You don't need to say you don't believe it.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you.
Okay.
Because that is promoting false information then.
Oh, like you've been doing the whole time you're on stage. Thank you. You can say guns, though. You don't have to say weapons. It's okay.
Is there a time limit on when you find it works and doesn't work for you? Like a 50-minute broadcast works, but a 30 people turning off?
It just all depends on the topic, honestly.
Good work.
All right, guys, going off. Thank you for joining me.